Hi, this is Chad from Toega DevWorks. This video will demonstrate how to use the DK app from a door knocker's perspective to generate leads for the Weedman Lawn Care franchise. The first thing we're going to do is actually start up the app. Your office manager should have put a shortcut somewhere on the main screen from your device to get into the app. And they will also assign you a login and password. Your login may be your name, it may also be your employee number, and they'll assign you a password as well. Okay, so once you're in your app, the main screen looks something like this. The buttons here at the top, My Binder, this is how you get into the streets that have been assigned to you. Book, Pickup, Quote, this is used if you're booking a quote for a customer on a street that is not in your binder for whatever reason. Pending Requests, we'll talk about a little bit later. This is the refresh button. So for example, if your supervisor gives you some new work, assigns some new streets to you, that kind of stuff, hitting the refresh button will pick up that work and bring it from your franchise's database and into your tablet. And this button down here is to send a message to your supervisor, keeping in mind that this button may or may not be available on your device, depending on whether or not your franchise is using fully connected cellular tablets or just Wi-Fi with a hotspot. Okay, so I'm going to go into My Binder, and this is the tool that you use to move through your streets. So in other words, anything that you see in this list, these are streets that have been assigned to you by your supervisor. And you can see here that there's a certain number of houses and a certain number that are assigned to you. If you're working with a partner, you will be assigned either the odd or even homes, and your partner will be assigned the odd and even homes respectively. So I'm just going to go into one of these streets, and right away you'll notice that there's some items in here that are color coded. Anything in blue represents an active customer. These are people that your supervisor does not want you to knock on, obviously. As well, the items in red could mean a couple of things. It could mean something that you've already visited today. These items here, for example, knocked 6 days ago, that means that somebody, not necessarily you, but somebody from your office knocked on this property 6 days ago and actually got contact with the homeowner, in which case we do not want to knock on them again because we don't want to be there too frequently. This right here, do not solicit, that's what DNS stands for. This is a customer who you visited in the past, or someone from your franchise has visited in the past, and has asked you not to try and solicit them any longer. So up at the top here we have some different buttons. These two are used to sort the house numbers. So for example, by default I'm looking at house numbers ascending from smaller numbers to larger numbers. If for whatever reason you come off one street and onto another street and you're starting at the high end, you would simply hit this button to sort it from high to low. Okay. Now obviously your supervisor has assigned you even numbered homes. Okay. If for whatever reason you come to a spot on the road that doesn't have any homes on your side of the street and you need to cross over and maybe help your partner with the odd numbered ones, you can hit this little button up here, and you'll notice when I hit it, I'm now getting the even and odd numbered ones, and the ones that are not necessarily assigned to me will have a little yellow box, and the ones that are assigned to me have a green box. And anything obviously that you can't do is going to have a red box. So you could cross over to this side of the street and try and solicit some customers or some prospects that your partner was assigned until you get to a spot on the street where it goes back to even and odd homes. In which case you would just hit this button again to hide your partner's work, and you would just see your own even homes. These two buttons here are used to add properties that are missing from the current street. So for example, this street starts at house number 4 according to our database, but it's possible that a new home has been built here since the database was purchased, in which case you may want to add a 2 Cherrywood Drive, or there may be one in the middle here that's missing that you need to add that's not in the database. So this button with the little X, this is used to capture a no, and this button here is used to capture a lead. So in other words, if you were to solicit house number 2 and they said, no, I do not want to order anything, or I do not want a free quote, you could simply come in here and say, okay, I need to add 2 Cherrywood Drive. It should fill in the city and province or state in your zip code, and here you would say whatever the reason was that they didn't want. Let's say they use another company. Okay. And you can see that it's added to Cherrywood Drive here. Now if I was to, say for example, get to the end of this street and approach house number 60 and they said yes, that they did in fact want a quote, I can click the plus thing and get their name. And you'll notice I'm using the next button to move from field to field. This is probably the quickest way to do it as well. It knows how to automatically, if you use the next button, it will automatically try and fill in the city, province or state and postal or zip code. Okay, so I'm going to capture their phone number here. And optionally, you can get their email address and any notes. For example, if the customer or the prospect is only interested in a quote for an aeration or something like that, you could put some notes in there, and that would go back to the office to appear on their lead. And from here, you would simply capture the customer's signature. I'm just going to hit this button up here, at which point you would present the tablet to the customer for them to sign. Okay, so you can see now that this one is in green and it shows that a lead is booked. So that's how you add a property that's not already in your list. If your disposition is a no, or if it's a yes, you would use this button. Okay. So what you would typically do, I obviously added the house number 2 and house number 60 at the other end, but you would typically move from one end of the street to the other and approach each of these properties to try and generate a lead. At each property, if it's already in the database, you can simply choose a yes or no response with these 2 buttons. A no response will bring up a list of all of the no reasons that your franchise has configured. So whatever reason the prospect tells you that they're not interested in, you would just check it off here. If there is no answer, you would choose either no answer or homeowner not home, something like that, depending on what your franchise has configured, and hit OK. If this particular customer were to say to you, I'm not interested and I would not like you to come back again, you could check off not interested or any one of these other reasons. It will only let you check off one below, but you optionally can flag them as do not solicit, so that in the future, when you're door knocking this street, this person will automatically come up do not solicit, so you'll skip them over. Okay. So I'm just going to hit OK there, and you can see as I'm doing this, it's marking them as you know, uses another company or do not solicit, whatever reason I chose. Let's say though that 14 Cherrywood actually does want a quote. You would hit the yes. It would bring up their default information, whatever's in your database. If everything is correct, you don't need to make any changes at all. You would just hit this button, pass the tablet over to them along with your stylus, and they would sign it. Okay. If, for example, we got to a different property and we were booking a lead, if this name isn't correct, the last and first name may be wrong, or for example, let's say that Rachel wasn't home when we got to this property and we wanted to speak, or we spoke to her husband Bob. Ideally, we would change the name so that the name, the signature that you capture on file will match the name stored in the lead. And you can verify the phone number, and if you need to change it, for example, they may give you a cell phone number. instead of their home number, that kind of thing. So once all of this information is correct, you simply hit this button to collect their signature. And hit OK. Okay, so as you can see, as I'm doing this, it's booking these quotes. Okay, so you simply would move through one street from beginning to end, go back to up to your list of streets, and then you would go into the next street, work your way through that street, and then your next street. Once you finish all of the work that you've been assigned, if you do have a full-time cellular connection at this point, you can actually send a message directly to your supervisor by hitting this button and sending a message, "I'm ready to be picked up." They will receive the message on their screen, and in fact they can get directions directly to your last known location because when you made this request, your device is actually sending its GPS coordinates to your supervisor so that they can find you quickly. Okay. Now, if you are working for a franchise that does not have a full-time cellular connection, what that means is that your tablet is not always connected to the internet, in which case you're going to be picking up and dropping off the work on your tablet through a hotspot in your supervisor's vehicle. So what would happen is your supervisor would drive you to the location of your first stop. They would assign you some work using their tablet, and they would have you log in on your tablet and connect to the hotspot in their vehicle through Wi-Fi. So you would pick up the work using the refresh button, and then once you have your binder, so you go into your binder and make sure that you've got the work that they just gave you and everything looks good, you would simply, in the upper corner here, turn your Wi-Fi off. And your tablet may or may not look like this. They all look a little bit differently, but best to turn your Wi-Fi off at this point so that you're not wasting battery. And then you would go out and collect your leads in exactly the same way that we're doing them here. The only difference is that when you do this, your requests are not immediately sent back to the office. What happens is they go into this area here, into pending requests. So for example, if I'm just going to turn my my Wi-Fi off. Okay, and when my internet connection is off, anything I book or any responses I get, whether they're yeses or nos, as you can see, as I'm booking these items, you can see right here that they've gone into pending requests. Okay. So what would happen is you would go through all of the work that you've been assigned, and once you get to the end of it and then return to your supervisor's vehicle, you would turn your Wi-Fi back on, and then go into the pending requests folder and hit this button to send all of these requests that are waiting on your tablet to the office. And now all of my requests are gone. You can see that this is grayed out. So before you log out at the end of the day, just make sure that pending requests here is empty and that there's nothing waiting on your tablet still to be sent to the office. Otherwise, you may not get credit for all your knocks or for all of the leads that you've generated. Once you are ready to log out, simply hit the back button here at the bottom of your tablet and choose yes to exit. If you always use the same tablet and you don't want to have to type in your login and password the next time, you can leave the check mark in here to remember your login.